Quinn hadn't eaten anything in the last 2 days. If this was the case with anyone else, then they would be starving with hunger. However, it wasn't the case for Quinn. Before eating the pill, he felt completely full, and he could guess the reason why. Ian's blood. For some reason, as soon as he took that pill, it was like his body was rejecting it. Inedible substance consumed. Haley rushed over to check on Quinn once again and placed him on the floor. She checked everything she could and even started to use her healing ability on his stomach. A healing ability has been detected. Unable to block ability. 55 of 55 HP. Thank you. I feel much better, Quinn said. Your hunger grows. Did you find out what's wrong with the boy? Faye asked. Not yet, Haley replied, but I would need to take him back to the doctor's office when I get back. Blood bank used. 90 of 100 milliliters. You are no longer hungry. Are we ready to head off now? Leo said, staring in the direction of Quinn. Is he looking at me? Can't be right, he is blind after all. Now you two, Faye said, looking at Vorden and Quinn. When we head back, I want a detailed report of what happened. Although we have already heard the other side of the story, we would like to hear yours, so it matches up. You mean you know someone pushed us into the portal? Vorden asked. Yes, the second year who was responsible came forward and admitted it. General Duke is dealing with his punishment as we speak. The group started to walk around the training center, with the kids in the center and Faye leading the front. Behind them was Leo, and now Quinn was sure of it. Leo was staring at him intently. Could Leo have discovered Quinn now had an ability? But if so, why wasn't he saying anything? When we're back at the school, let's have a talk, just you and me. I promise I won't hurt you, he whispered. Finally, they had reached the reception room. At the desk, there was a computer with a passcode machine next to it. Faye input the code which allowed her to turn and log into the computer. After she typed away a few things, a large mechanical sound could be heard coming from the direction of the arena. The group returned from where they had just come, and this time when entering the stadium, rather than just the plain flooring on the arena floor, out from underneath, a large portal had been lifted and placed there. As the group walked closer to the portal, Quinn was beginning to hear his heart beat louder, and he wasn't the only one. What's wrong, boy? Leo said. It's nothing, he replied. But it was a lie. After throwing up the food pill, it was clear to him that his body had changed after the last evolution. He could eat food, and now he couldn't. So what about other changes? Before, when walking into the sun, he would lose half his stats. What if this time he just burnt to ashes? The group stepped into the portal and exited out from the other end. As they opened their eyes, they could see they were in the training hall, the same one where Peter had pushed Quinn. Vorden, you head back to class. There's some checks I still need to do on Quinn, Haley said. Del, you're free to go, and Leo, you come with me. We will report this back to Nathan, telling him the mission is a success, and I'm guessing he will decide what to do with the True Dream body. The students were currently in the middle of their classes. Layla was sitting in her seat, hitting her pen constantly on her table. She moved it up and down in the middle with her fingers. It was something she would do whenever she had something on her mind. As soon as classes were over and she entered the hallway, she could hear all the other students mumbling away. Did you hear? Apparently the missing students are back. Are you sure? Yeah, I saw Vorden walking back to the dorms, and Professor Dell was cheering out loudly in the hallway. Vorden's back, but what about Quinn? Layla thought. She immediately rushed over to the boys' dorm to see if the rumors she heard were true. She gathered her courage and knocked at the door. A few seconds later, and the last person she wanted to see had opened it. It was Vorden. Look, let me just get to Chase. Where is Quinn? Vorden smiled as soon as he saw who was at the door. He's at the doctor's office. Thank you, she said as she rushed off. Wait! Vorden shouted. As she turned around, she could still see a huge grin on his face. You're not the only one that knows anymore, he said. What do you mean? Layla asked. Vorden then started to walk over to her slowly. The grin on his face was beginning to get creepier by the second. I'm saying you're no longer special and not needed by him anymore, because I know. Layla turned and continued to run, and as she did, she had the final say. I guess you're still a crazy boy. She ran and ran until eventually she had finally reached the doctor's office. Quinn! She said, surprised. For a moment she had to look him up and down a couple of times. His jawline, His clear skin and just something about him was pulling her towards him. "What's going on?" she said. "Are you using some type of charm spell on me?" She had read enough vampire novels to know what was happening. Her mind was now running wild with thoughts.
"Can you turn this thing off?" Quinn said in his head. "Of course, but I thought you would like this," the system replied. "Of course I do, but if it's like this, she won't really like me. It's just because of the system." Charm stat deactivated. Suddenly, Layla no longer had the urge. "Are you okay? What happened?" she asked. While no one else was in the office, Quinn proceeded to tell Layla everything that happened in the portal world. "I'm sorry I wasn't there," she said. "I said I would help you, but I couldn't." "Hey, don't worry about it," Quinn replied. "I wasn't expecting anyone to jump in after me. That's practically suicide." "He did," Layla mumbled just quite enough, so Quinn couldn't understand what she said. For some reason, she felt like Vorden had one-upped her on the loyalty scale. "Just remember, if you need any blood, you can call me. You don't have to really be on Vorden," she said, as she rushed out of the doctor's office. It was a nice feeling to have people worry about him. For the first time in his life, Quinn truly felt like he had friends. After Haley had given Quinn the all-okay to leave the office, he finally returned to his dorm room. Inside, Vorden was playing busy on a handheld device. "Hey man, is everything all okay?" Vorden asked. "They didn't find out you were a—" He looked around the room before finishing the last words. "Vampire, did they?" "Yeah, everything was fine. She said she could find nothing wrong with me, and my blood levels were normal, so she sent me back." As the two of them were talking away, a beep sound was heard from the door, indicating that it had been unlocked. The door opened, and in came Peter. "Guys," Peter started to say with his eyes watering up. "Get out!" Vorden shouted as he pointed at the door. "What?" "I said get out!" Vorden shouted again. "If you don't get out, Peter, I don't know what I will do to you." "But this is my room as well," he cried. "I don't care. Ask them to change rooms, but you are not staying here." Peter then looked to Quinn for help, hoping he would say something. But Quinn just turned his head away as his body was shaking. Vorden then went to his desk and grabbed a book, chucking it toward Peter, hitting the wall and falling onto the ground. "The next one is going for your face if you don't leave," said Vorden. "Peter, please just go," Quinn said. When Quinn spoke those words, it finally hit him. There was no redemption for him. No matter what he said or did, or even why. They had made up their minds. He was no longer their friend. He opened the door and closed it behind him as he left. With nowhere to go and no one to rely on, he stayed in the dorm room hallway, curled up into a ball on the ground, and cried himself to sleep. The next day, when the two woke up in their beds, they could hear commotion going on outside. As they opened the door, they could see a group had gathered just outside their room, and they were all circling around him. "What happened to him? Look, the floors are wet underneath. Did he cry himself to sleep outside? I thought I could hear something last night." A boy from the group then knelt down and grabbed Peter by the hair, lifting his head off the ground and waking him up. "So, it was you that was waking me up in the middle of the night," the boy said. Before deciding to do anything, the boy looked at Peter's watch and noticed he was a level 1. The boy himself was only a level 2. So he took this chance to show everyone he wasn't at the bottom of the food chain. "If you're going to stay out here like a dog, then you need to learn to shut up," he said as he lifted his hand and slapped Peter across the face. Peter was already defeated at this point. He didn't care what happened to him. What were a few slaps? This pain was nothing. What was the point of fighting back? He would only get hurt more. The only people who had bothered to help him in the past, he had tried to kill them. This is what Peter wanted. He wanted to be punished for his actions. As the boy lifted his hand to slap Peter again, he felt something grab his wrist. Then, before the boy could even turn his head, he saw a fist right in front of his eyes. The punch was so powerful, the sound of his jaw cracking could be heard, and the boy immediately was knocked out and collapsed to the ground. As Peter looked up through his watery vision, he could see Quinn standing there with a look of anger on his face. "I didn't do that for you," he said. "If anyone was treating someone like a piece of shit like that, I would have done the same." Without even looking at Peter, Quinn walked off with Vorden and headed to the canteen. After breakfast, the group was to go to their homeroom class for the usual morning lesson, before heading to combat classes. Everyone sat in their usual seats. which meant that Vorden and Quinn were sat next to each other with Peter on the side. They really did come back. I heard they got pushed into a portal by some second year. It's amazing they managed to survive. All of the students were talking about the two who had gone missing for a few days. It wasn't the talk around the school, but was talked about frequently in Dell's class, since the students belonged to their class. Good morning, everyone. Now that everything's back to normal again, I am proud to announce that your first portal outing date has been confirmed and will now be moved to next week. So please prepare yourselves as best you can. Oh, and remember to practice with your teammates. The same teams that were registered before will be used for this outing. This meant that Peter would be on the same team as the others.
Hi, Quinn here. Wondering what happens next? If you want to jump the queue and unleash all episodes, click on the link here and install the Pocket FM app.